Welcome, and thank you for joining FortinetLIVE. I'm Peter Newton, Senior Director of Products and Solutions here at Fortinet. And today I'm joined by Nirav Shah, Vice President of Products and Solutions. And today we're talking about some of the challenges that customers are seeing when it comes to cybersecurity. So I'll start off with Nirav. I know you talk with customers all the time. What are the most common challenges that you're hearing from your customers?
Yeah, Peter, great to be here. And absolutely, I think currently we are in a phase where a lot of customers are figuring out this whole hybrid workforce, especially users going back. And one of the biggest thing that I hear is the focus from boards to have CIO focusing on digital acceleration. And I know this word digital acceleration may be a pretty broad, but if we break down into three things, what I hear the most is first, investing into modern networking technologies. And what that means is there are many network edges, starting from LAN, WAN, cloud, OT, where they all have a specific technology required, such as SD-WAN, 5G, Wi-Fi 6, or a cloud-based delivered networking. And all of these technologies are key for them to invest to make sure that the productivity of users and the applications remains high and consistent. But what I often hear from them is the biggest problem is all these network edges and the products and technologies associated with them are oftentimes going in a same swim lane, having like a more like a point product. What that means is it works very well for a specific technology, but it lacks an awareness of an application, awareness of other adjacent technologies, which are very critical for an end-to-end experience. And this is where they are looking for more of a platform approach. But Peter, the biggest thing that I hear from them is not having security built in to these technologies. Oftentimes, security is either an afterthought or bolt on, which creates more challenges for them. So, to sum it up, their main requirement, main ask is I want to do digital acceleration, but can I do it securely? Can I make sure that my threat protections remain high while making sure the user experience and productivity also remains high, not just for a specific edge, but for all network edges? And I know this kind of brings back to the area that you focus a lot and you talk to a lot of customers is working from anywhere. I know it's going to stay for a long time. And why don't you tell us what are you hearing in work from anywhere, things which are happening or in top of mind for a lot of customers?
Well, very similar. As you know, I head up our Zero Trust solutions, and I'm getting into a lot of conversations with customers who are interested in the work from anywhere situation. As you know, as we coming out of the pandemic, we have a lot of organizations that are grappling with the ideas they need to bring workers back into the office, but yet at the same time support people working remotely. And importantly, support people who will work some days in the office and some days remotely. And this really talks to the exact point you're talking about of the number of edges that corporations are grappling with as how do they enable productivity and security at the same time. With work from anywhere, they have to have a consistent security policy in the office as well as remotely and even when traveling. And that's where they're looking for the right technology and solution to do that. The good news is Zero Trust as a philosophy has been around for a long time, and we're now seeing specific solutions like Fortinet's ZTNA that are really enabling that concept of consistent security and a good user experience no matter where they are. So they can have that granular access to applications in a secure manner with the same policy whether someone is on premise, at headquarters where there's a high density of users, as well as when they're remotely and maybe they're transiting through a cloud or a SASE service to get that Zero Trust protection. So yeah, work from anywhere. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love when I hear this term Zero Trust, and that's amazing. It's top of mind. But oftentimes I feel that today in an environment, almost every vendor, everybody talks about Zero Trust. And sometimes I feel this word Zero Trust is abused. So let's talk about Zero Trust from a very basic level and how it trickles down to the strategy to a specific technology.
That's a good point, Nirav. I should have been more clear when I brought up the term. I talk about it so much, but fundamentally, the idea behind zero trust is moving from the idea that you would authenticate a user once when they join your network and then you give them access to everything in the network, to really being very explicit about the trust that you give and that you are authenticating user every time they go to access an application. And so that's the concept of zero trust. And that philosophy of zero trust then leads to various architectures. And there's a variety of organizations that have put forward architectures. NIST has one that they've developed for the federal government, but there's various analyst firms that have developed others. But the fundamental concept is looking at the individual users, looking at the assets and data they want to access, and then being able to create granular access and control so that you can really limit and only give the necessary access to those users. Kind of you can think of it as a need to know. But one of the things that I know you're well trained on or very aware of is one of those zero trust architectures. Forrester has developed or announced something they call the Zero Trust Edge. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, first of all, it's very helpful the way you explained from mindset to strategy to technology. And I think one of the things we consistently hear from our customers is that this whole evolution to zero trust strategy is a journey. And this term that you mentioned, zero trust edge, really resonates with them because it's not saying that customers who are looking to adopt this technology has to make a huge change from going hardware to cloud delivered day one. I think the foundation of zero trust edge focuses on three things. So number one, the convergence that you're talking about, the networking and security convergence needs to be everywhere. So on-prem, especially now, as more and more customers are going to go back and have that hybrid environment, the on-prem convergence remains critical. So you have SD-WAN, you have next generation firewall, and you have ZTNA all together in unified offering is the foundation part of that journey. But then second part is, of course, as you mentioned, the remote users and work from anywhere, which is going to be here for a long time. We need to make sure that for those users, we provide the same convergence in a cloud delivered manner. And again, there also we have a ZTNA there. So now when you look at the architecture, it's about balancing the convergence on-prem and cloud delivered using the same offering, having the same universal ZTNA, and providing that promise of secure digital acceleration, having that secure application access is really key. And we're so happy that when we talk to customer about this, they like this idea of we are not right now in a phase where we are asking them to hurry to move to cloud day one, but it's the philosophical journey where they can go step by step and still have a good balance in place, right? And Peter, yeah, go ahead.
You say that kind of resonates a bit. I know that a lot of people, when they hear zero trust, they think of SASE or cloud-only solutions. But you're saying it's really important to have that hybrid approach.
I think it's a really important for our users to understand that there is definitely a lot of marketing buzz where there is SASE, there is SSE, and SASE is an architecture to your earlier point, where you still need an SD-WAN as a foundation element and security in a cloud. I think what we are saying is absolutely those are critical pieces for remote users, but do not ignore, don't think that network is dead and you don't need anything on-prem. It is absolutely required that you have a next generation firewall with SD-WAN on-prem, because remember, as users are coming back, you do need to make sure that you have a good isolation strategy. How are you securing your internal threats? You need to have a good segmentation strategy. So having that network, which is smart, intelligent, secure, combining with the cloud delivered security and having ZTN is super critical. And Peter, I want to ask you on that front, because I know we touched upon ZTNA many times in the discussion, and I think it is such a core element of all the architecture, all the strategy we talk about. Can you explain us the ZTNA in the real world? How are customers adopting it? What are some of the use cases of it?
Sure. Yeah, ZTNA, as you mentioned, we talked about zero trust, the philosophy, the architecture, the technology. ZTNA is that one of those enabling technologies to deliver on the concept of zero trust. And we're seeing that there are some common use cases when it comes to ZTNA. The first and foremost is usually the remote worker use case, and that's been, of course, top of mind with the recent pandemic. But now, as companies are starting to bring employees back to the office, the being able to enforce those ZTNA policies and being able to control that granular access to applications, even when someone is on site, is becoming one of the critical use cases that customers are looking for. I mean, I've seen some great customer statements about, hey, I really like the ability to do ZTNA offsite. I want to be able to have those same policies and capabilities when on site. And that's, when I'm talking to customers, they're really excited and happy about the fact that Fortinet's ZTNA offering is firewall based as opposed to being just cloud based. Our solution, it can be on premise, it can be a virtual in the cloud, it can be SASE service based. So, based on the Fortinet service there, but it's fundamentally flexible. And to your point about the Zero Trust Edge, having that hybrid approach of both cloud-based and on-premise capabilities, our ZTNA spans all those capabilities and all those use cases. It really makes people able to operate, both remotely as well as on-site. But that kind of leads to the question, with this hybrid environment, what are you seeing with respect to customers deploying the technology?
Yeah, I think as we have seen a massive adoption of secure SD-WAN, and I think we have talked for many time. And I want to take again on that journey path of how from SD-WAN to ZTNA evolution is so critical. I remember 5 years back, SD-WAN and security foundation together was key. We pioneered that, and today Fortinet is a leader in providing that. If you don't have security with SD-WAN, then it's not going to give us the business outcome, and almost every customer implements that way. Peter, I think we are at the phase right now where if you have the secure SD-WAN without ZTNA, then you are really missing the evolution of where this technology is going. And I had a really interesting conversation recently with a customer where we talked about an analogy to explain this. Think about SD-WAN where you are an employee, you're a critical part of this company, and as part of that monitoring, they have already given you the badge. So now, from your home when you're going to office, you are using the badge to go to the office, and you're allowed because you are part of the critical business to have that impact. But once that individual is in the office, you are allowed to access almost anything, right? So you can now go to specific areas where maybe there's a sensitive server and you're not supposed to access them. But now imagine if this person has a specific access granted only on a specific day, then those together makes a huge sense. And we think exactly in the same way SD-WAN and ZTNA is coming together. SD-WAN is an important application that you're identifying and you're letting the user or application go to the data center. But once you go there, you have to have a ZTNA enforcement to make sure that you are accessing the right application. So any solution out there, if you don't have SD-WAN and ZTNA together, then you are missing the point. You're not getting the right set of user experience and user access together. So I really think, Peter, that's where the industry is moving. That's where customers are looking. So it's less about, I just want to go cloud delivered or I just want on-prem. It's more about how are we helping them evolving from a single technology with the set of innovations as industry move. And I think Fortinet is so well positioned to have firewall, to have SD-WAN, segmentation, SSL inspection, and ZTNA all together, and let customers choose where do you want to deploy, but still have unified policy. Right? In fact, I want to ask you, I think you made a very interesting comment that we are the firewall-driven ZTNA, and we also have a SASE. Why do you think that firewall-based ZTNA is an important for campus, for many other offices, and some of the use cases if you can touch upon?
Well, with respect to the fact that our ZTNA is firewall-based, it's really enabling that deployment of zero trust solutions everywhere. Zero trust should be a philosophy. It's not just if you're off the network you should have zero trust controls. Zero trust should really apply everywhere. And Fortinet's, because we put it into the firewall, that can be deployed on-prem, it can be deployed in the cloud, and so it really supports the hybrid architecture that you were talking about that's so important to the Zero Trust Edge architecture from Forrester, which kind of, if you think about it, Zero Trust as a concept has been around for more than 10 years. Forrester created this concept a long time ago, and now they're bringing on Zero Trust Edge as they see how networks has evolved and kind of pointed the way to how to really intelligently deploy Zero Trust Edge in that hybrid environment. And I think it's important for a lot of companies to realize that Zero Trust is a philosophy, and really deploying it is a journey. It's going to take a while. And as all organizations here are pretty much a hybrid environment, it's really important to look at those architectures that mirror your network, that mirror your architecture, so that as those organizations are looking to deploy Zero Trust, they're looking at something that's relevant and makes sense to them.
That makes sense. And I can see, based on the way you explain now, it's so clear that don't think when somebody says zero trust, it's a product, it's a philosophy. And I also like how we talked about the whole zero trust concept, because initially we were talking about digital acceleration, then we talked about work from anywhere. But now when we combine all of this together, we are again bringing back Fortinet's always this idea of having a cybersecurity as a platform. So now, yes, we are converging with all this solution. There is a huge focus on innovation, but we are also helping on consolidation. And this convergence and consolidation together to apply this architecture, whether it's a Nest base, whether it's a Zero Trust Edge, or even a SASE, we are there to help customer on going on that journey. So I found your explanation extremely helpful today. And that kind of just comes to the end of today's thing. So I want you to kind of wrap up some of your thoughts, some of the interesting things that you might have seen we didn't discuss, and that will be really helpful to the users.
Well, I think you'd actually hit on a lot of those things. The key big things that I heard that you were calling out were the fact that the importance of delivering security as well as the connectivity, the convergence of networking security, so that users can have the productivity that they need, but yet corporations get the security that they require. And having that all delivered in a platform that enables the many different technologies that are required to deliver a zero trust architecture is key to really enabling the ability to do that. And so looking at architectures like the Zero Trust Edge that lay out that hybrid nature, showing how do you provide security for both on-premise and cloud solutions, I think is going to be key for customers as they move along this journey to Zero Trust, as they move towards enabling that type of philosophy to securing their users and enabling that productivity. So I want to thank you very much for your time today, Nirav. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And thanks everyone for joining FortinetLIVE, and I hope to see you soon again.